We are here in conversation with the Niti Aayog head, Mr. Rajiv Kumar. Thanks for talking to us, taking your time out. The weekend was a very hectic one for you, the 5th Governing Council meeting of the Niti Aayog. And we're really talking at a time when the Prime Minister himself was talking about spearheading the $5 trillion economy vision by 2024. At a time like this, when there are global concerns, there is a fear of a global trade war, what are the opportunities for us? How possible is it really?
Oh, it's eminently possible, because if you just do the numbers itself, we are now currently about $2.8 trillion already, and if you do the PPP numbers, it's a little higher. So if you grow at about 8% per annum, the power of the exponential is such that you will get get to that target quite easily. And what the Prime Minister went out of his way to emphasize, that each state, he said, should set their own targets. Because then when you come together, for example, Maharashtra has an economy today already of $400 billion. So now they can say that, look, we want to double it, or we want to reach 1 trillion in the next 5 years or something. And similarly, Tripura, on the other hand, and look at the diversity of our country, it's just a $36 billion economy. So they can think of becoming 80. So because why are these state-wise targets important? Because once you drill down at that level, then things can actually take shape rather than just talk in the air. So so that's one. And you talked about the possibilities, and he emphasized exports a lot, because our share in merchandise trade is 1.67% and has been stuck there forever and ever. Now China, I think, has risen to about 13%.
Right.
So now even if we double or even triple our exports, which is easily possible, so then from 300 they can become a trillion. And why shouldn't they? Because the share of exports to GDP has actually fallen in the last few years. So the exports is a huge possibility. And the other one, the very big one, and I'll stop there, is agriculture. Because agriculture also, 43% of our workforce engaged there, producing less than 18% of our GDP. Just shows that there's a massive potential for improvement in productivity and and profitability and commercialization of agriculture.
So I will touch upon the two issues of agriculture and of course pushing exports in the economy. But since you're saying that states should be given specific targets, is there really a case for bringing back the 5-year
Not at all. No, not at all. Not at all. One, the states will not be given the target. He is encouraging the states to adopt themselves. See, because given the diversity of our country, as I was trying to explain to you, from Tripura to Maharashtra and from Kashmir to Tamil Nadu, you can imagine, no one-size-fit-all policy will ever work. You see, so each one will have to determine its own set of, its own strategy.
It has to be tailor-made.
It has to be tailor-made, and this is what Niti Aayog has been trying to do, which is to work as development partners for each state, and then be grounded in their reality. The 5-year plan, the Planning Commission was an exercise done somewhere, and they projected things and created targets which no state ever took seriously. So there is simply no reason for bringing that back. But because one, we need to have the cooperative federalism, which Niti Aayog is pursuing, and the competitive federalism. So the one way to get the states going is what we are trying, to say that, oh, look, let's see how competitive you are in agriculture or in tourism, things like that. And the last thing here about Niti Aayog is that to get this rate of growth, we need out of the box ideas.
Right.
We need cutting edge ideas, and that's the job of Niti Aayog. And that job is a very critical one, because that is the area in which, by presenting the new thoughts and the new ideas and then getting them implemented in the line ministries, can we achieve a higher rate of growth.
Dr. Kumar, we are speaking at a time when a lot of questions once again are being raised by the former Chief Economic Advisor Arvind Subramanian, where he said that GDP methodology could have led to an overestimation of 2.5 percentage point. How do policymakers like you navigate through numbers like these then?
No, one, I wish Arvind had taken cognizance of these numbers when he was in a position to have done something with it. But two, just one number for you, which is the tax to GDP ratio. The taxes are collected in cash, right? And then you calculate your GDP ratio. So if your cash is the same, because that's actual number, right? Then with 2.5% GDP down, the tax to GDP ratio will be, will go through the ceiling. Now, how does he explain that? So that's the second part. The third part is that, look, most of the time in private sector economies like this, policy is not about very precise numbers, but is about direction.
Right.
And for example, that if the manufacturing sector is about 14% of your GDP, now it's too low compared to your other peer countries. So you want to encourage that. So the policy will tend to do that. As I said about agriculture, the same sort of thing. So we need the statistics of the highest quality. We are committed to doing that in the coming period, and I think you will see action on this front quite soon.
When you're saying you'll see action, can you specify for us?
I can't possibly do that, but because I think you'll have to wait for a little while.
Is there a change in the methodology? Some kind of panel will be set up? Anything?
Let's wait and see.
All right. Since, sir, you were talking about how there is a need to push manufacturing and exports. And once again, just coming back, how should one be making India more competitive? This has been a long-standing conversation that we've been having for some time. When do we see action really happening on that front? How to make India more competitive? How to ensure that we have our competitive edge as compared to other nations?
Yeah, so see, one thought earlier had been that if India was to enter into our bilateral and multi-regional trade pacts, the so-called comprehensive economic cooperation agreements, which we have signed with several countries, that will in some sense drive the change in our logistics, in our infrastructure, and and our overall competitiveness, etc. Quite clearly that hasn't worked, and so what we need to do is to go back to the drawing board and say and answer your question that you just asked. And I think that there are 2 or 3 very key drivers here. One is the infrastructure deficit, which has to be, if there are companies who have to generate their own power or have to construct their own roads or industrial sites, they will not be competitive. So that's one part of it, and as you can see that in the last 5 years a huge amount of attention has been done, and for example the power situation is improved enormously. I mean, there are none of these. So that's the infrastructure part. The second part, of course, is the cost of capital. Now the cost of capital is inordinately high, the real cost of capital, because given the inflation rate, the rate at which are borrowing, but even with this, the very large segment of a small and medium enterprises is actually borrowing at a much higher rate, right, than the formal credit. So it is in some sense the access to credit, which is the issue now, and even more perhaps than the cost of credit. Now we have to resolve that, and I think, I'm sure, and that our very competent colleagues in the RBI will be tackling this, because that's their realm to tackle. The third, of course, is labor. And labor, as I think has been announced by the Ministry of Labor, you will see the 3 of the 4 codes which will bring together all the 52 or 53 different laws under wages and industrial safety and others all together, and that will clarify a lot of issues. So I think, and the last bit, of course, is competitiveness is the exchange rate, and that goes without saying, because even if you do all of this, but the exchange rate is not is not in line with what you need, then you can defeat some of that purpose. So I think the government now clearly recognizes this. There is focus on it, and you will see, as it were, that these factors will be transformed, and Indian economy will become more competitive.
This meeting of the Niti Aayog also happens to be around the same time when the Prime Minister also announced that there's going to be a panel, a specific cabinet committee that will be looking at the issue of economy. Can we expect?
Agriculture.
No, on economy I'm saying. the committee that is going to be headed by Nirmala Sitharaman as well as Amit Shah as well. Just help us understand now, because there is so much focus on economy, the Prime Minister himself is talking about a 5 trillion economy. Can we expect movement on these issues happening in the next, say, 100 days? Are there any low-hanging fruits there, apart from the labour law that will come up?
No, I'm sure there are several, and I'm also, I know also that there is a fair bit of action in the making. So I think you should wait for the 100 days to be unfolding before you.
Since
let me not take away your excitement.
Okay, let me shift focus and talk about agriculture. That is another key area that the Niti Aayog Governing Council meeting focused on. There is a task force that you will be forming, but a lot of people say that perhaps if you repeal or amend the APMC Act and the Essential Commodities Act, it could lead to a lot of middlemen really becoming more stronger. How will you look at addressing those issues?
So the suggestion that was made there, and that came from a fair bit number of chief ministers as well, and for which we've had meetings here also, is to not repeal but to replace it with the APLM Act. The Agriculture Produce and Labour Market Act, that's one, because that then still gives you a framework, for in which the farmer can transact his business, but also that gives the farmer the freedom to take his or her product to wherever and whichever part of the country it wants, and to sell it to whoever, rather than just to the registered traders under the APMC. So the idea is to replace, because you've seen that in Bihar, which repealed the APMC Act, the experience has not been the best. So I think there's a unanimity on this one, and that this will happen. The second part of this is,
time frame for it?
I think we have asked them to give us a time frame, and we'll follow up with it. But there wasn't any agreement on the meeting itself, because that's the too large a meeting. The other one is that we also need to modify very seriously the Essential Commodities Act, and try and see whether we need that act for also the category 2 of products. So that's the other one that the states have been, they themselves said that they would like to do that. And the third one is the promotion or the encouragement to ENAMs, because that's very important, so that they can encourage cross-border trading. But the Prime Minister's objective in setting up this task force, in which there will be chief ministers and whoever leads that, I suppose but anyway. So is to look into all structural aspects of agriculture.
Right.
Because the condition has changed dramatically. India is no more a sort of food scarce or an agricultural short economy. The growth rate of our agriculture, of cereal production, has been higher than consumption, rate of growth of consumption. So we have emerged as a surplus economy. So we need to rethink our approach to agriculture in this change context.
So while you are talking about how there is a need to rethink the approach towards agriculture, there is also a great deal of focus this time on the availability of water. That has become a very important issue. We're talking about how to deal with rain deficient areas, how to ensure that water is available in each tap. This is what the Prime Minister also did speak about. And before this interview started, you said that how water crisis in India has really become equivalent to the forex crisis at one point of time. How are we looking to deal with this issue? What are the deliverables that we can see in this area, given the fact that there is a Jal Shakti ministry now?
Well, that's the first step, and a very, very major step, which is to bring together all aspects of water and the water economy, if you like, under one roof and under one minister. And that's important news, because from river basin development, from watershed development to groundwater extraction, conservation, rain harvesting, or then the drinking water and sanitation, all of these are very related. And so now, so that's the big step that the Prime Minister has taken. Then other steps going forward from there, will be to replicate what has happened in some of the more successful states like Maharashtra and Gujarat and southern Rajasthan, and take that to all other states, whereby you are going to do watershed development, create check dams and so on, so that the groundwater supply increases and you don't overdraw it. But the other one, another one of course is what the Madhya Pradesh has done, which is to really revamp and rejuvenate their irrigation system, which is already existing.
Right.
And you can get a very sort of large benefits from there by just doing that much. So that is the other aspect of it. So this is a part of the water conservation thing. But then the other part is the access, which is the piped water, and getting the canals and the last mile delivery, etc. And there again, in the rural areas, we are still far behind. 18%, 19% of households have water, but we are committed to doing it to 100% by 2022, which is the the centenary of the Mahatma's birth. And and knowing that what this government's delivery is in for example in Jan Dhan, the number of accounts, or in Saubhagya, I think we will achieve that.
Sir, let me also touch upon one other important issue, and I know you're very short on time, but I'll be very brief. While we are talking about the role that states can play to push the 5 trillion economy, many states have also complained about not having enough fiscal space. How big a concern is that really? Because they have said that pushing forward the centrally sponsored schemes restricts their ability in terms of their own finances.
The finance minister, in her intervention at the meeting, gave some startling numbers in this regard. So what she pointed out was that the fiscal allocation, the devolution of fiscal resources from the center to the states has increased by 97% in this 5 years compared to the previous 5 years. 97% from, I think, if I got my numbers right, is something like 22 lakh crores to 40 lakh crores. Even for the CSS, the centrally sponsored schemes, the increase has been of the order of 60% that the center has given. So so the center has done more than its bit to provide the fiscal space for the states, and I think it's really time for the states, and some of them have done very well. For example, Tripura, I met the Chief Minister. He is, that small state has raised his own revenue mobilization from about 7% to 21% in 1 year. So there is a huge scope here, that the states can do their own resource mobilization.
But do you think GST restricts their ability
No,
for resource mobilization?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think there's a large number of areas where they can work, and we can go into the details later on. But the fact is that the states that the center has been actually, in my view, done more than its bit for providing the fiscal space, and it came out very clearly at that meeting and wasn't contested.
Before I let you go, and I need your comment on this matter, Mamata Banerjee did not attend the meeting, the Governing Council meeting, and she wrote to the PM where she termed the entire exercise as a fruitless exercise, while Pinarayi Vijayan, the Kerala Chief Minister, also seemed to echo her views on it. How would you respond to the criticism that is coming in for the Niti Aayog, that the Niti Aayog has not met its intended objectives? Yeah,
so first to very quickly clarify that of the 3 which I didn't attend, 2 were last minute dropouts because of contingent circumstances. I had spoken to both personally, and they had assured me that they would come, which is the Honorable Chief Minister of Punjab, and that of Telangana. About the criticism about Niti Aayog being sort of dysfunctional, etc., etc. I would love to get their views and suggestions on how to make Niti better, more efficient, more functional, and I hope they will send that to me, send those to me. But the suggestion to reconvert Niti into a planning commission is a retrogressive suggestion. We have moved on. Now public sector does not account for a larger part of our investment. This economy, if it will grow with the private investment and with the entrepreneurial capabilities, and Niti Aayog therefore has to work to facilitate and promote that, and that can be done, as I said earlier, by 2 or 3 things. One, to provide a platform where the private and public sector can come together, where where we can cut across silos to make this happen and to facilitate and improve the ease of doing business, and to, as I said earlier, come up with breakthrough and out of the box ideas, which will help us, what Dr. Mashelkar calls pole vaulting rather than leapfrogging into the 5 trillion target.
All right, here's to pole vaulting. We hope the Indian economy does very well. Before I let you go, it's ET Now's 10th anniversary. Any message you have for the viewers?
All the very best. I've grown up with ET and I've seen ET evolve over the 10 years, and I'm sure it will have, it will have very splendid next decade, and all the best for it.
Thank you very much, sir.
Bye.